So we've been discussing differences between Kadesh Leil Pesach, Kadesh all year round. We've discussed Zman HaMitzvah, that Kadesh all year round we make early, Leil Pesach we wait until night. We discussed who has to drink the wine all year round, as long as one person, the Kadesh or any person, drinks from the cup of wine, that's okay. Leil Pesach, we paskin that it's a chol bashti, everyone has to drink. How much do you have to drink? We said all year round it's just a rov revius, no matter how big your cup is. But by Leil Pesach, uchadchila the full kos b'alitz b'diavad ruba kakulo. And then we discussed as well, all year round we don't have to recline when we drink the wine. But Leil Pesach we recline when the different issues of reclining. One more possible distinction, and I get this question a lot, is what's the preferable drink? Is it better to use wine or grape juice? And you could go to Chama Medina also, but in terms of, it's basically the question is grape juice lechatchila? Everyone agrees if you like wine and want wine. I assume anyone who's asking me the question is they want to have grape juice, else they wouldn't be asking the question. The question is, if I prefer grape juice over wine, is that a lechatchila? Could I just as well, could I make my dalit kostas over grape juice, or is wine the preferable drink? So really, this isn't just Leil Pesach shaila, it's actually a hilchos kiddush shaila, it's an all year round shaila. So first, let's just discuss regarding kiddush, and then we'll get to Leil Pesach, if Leil Pesach is any different. So within the shaila, there's different questions too. One is a hilchos bracha shaila. The first question you have to ask yourself is, what bracha do we make on grape juice? If the answer is Borei Pri Hagafen, then we can move into step 2 of the question. But if the answer is Shahako or something else, then my text of Kiddush usually has Borei Pri Hagafen. I guess if you had Chama Medina, you could put the Shahako in anyway. So is grape juice Borei Pri Hagafen? So this is actually the sugya is discussed in Ketzad Mevarchim. The Gemara talks about what happens if you have a vegetable or fruit, you cook it, you squeeze it, whatever you're doing with it. The question is, what does it retain its same status as a bracha? Does it remain a Borei Pri Adama, Borei Pri Eitz, whatever the case may be? So the Gemara says it depends. Are you, by cooking it, by squeezing it out, are you raising the level of what it's considered used for, or are you lowering the level? Of course that could be a societal issue. Also, what's considered raising or lowering it? But that's, so if it's lowering it, then the Gemara says you go to a shahako and bidvaro. If it's raising, then it will retain the bracha Borei Pri Adam or whatever food we're talking about. So Rashi writes in brachas that by when you make grape juice, you are basically lowering its status, and therefore the bracha is shahako bidvaro. So according to Rashi, certainly not lechatchila, then one cannot use grape juice for kiddush all year round. Whether we pass them like this, Rashi, Rov Rishonim seem to be against Rashi, but interesting to us, there seems to be, we all know the bottom line is we make Borei Pri Hagafen and grape juice. What many of us might not know, this wasn't always the case.
1920s or 30s.
Yeah, so in fact, this is one of the, this I wouldn't say a major issue, this is one of the divides between the conservative movement and the Orthodox. I guess that was a good sign, if that's what they're arguing about. So what was, because Rav Henkin, who's then the Gadol in New York, before Rav Moshe, so he felt very strongly, like Rashi, that grape juice is shahako niyabidvaro, and therefore one cannot use it for kiddush. And because what happened also, you have to remember during these times, there was a time when liquor was prohibited, unless, of course, it was for religious reasons, and I think the rabbis were allowed to sell or be involved with the wine because they needed it for rituals, for legal. So in fact, there was a Talmud of the Chafetz Chaim, who I think he moved, when he came over to America, I think he was in New Haven.
Yeah.
New Haven with Hurwitz or something, and he wrote a long shtickle. He wrote a whole sefer, but in one of his pieces on it, he wrote a long tirade against, because who said that it was, because it was actually one of the people from the JCS. It was actually Louis Ginsburg. He's the one to come out and to be most of them and say, "What are you talking about? They don't need wine. Grape juice is good enough for Kiddush." So he writes in his tshuva, or not in his tshuva, but in his article he writes, and of course it's everyone knows it's Shahako, and he said the Rosh HaKarayim, like the head of the Karaites, he spelled it with an ayin. People who are destroying, ripping apart Judaism. That was his language, not mine. He was Rosh HaKarayim, and he's most, or as he says, a Bor Priagafen. He doesn't know what he's talking about. No one makes a Bor Priagafen on grape juice. It's Shahako, and that's it. So really, that was the accepted psak among Orthodox juries. So, it could be also, I'm throwing it out, that wasn't around then, there could have been a meta halacha issue involved also. In terms, what I mean is, because the sugya didn't change of whether you should make Bor Priagafen, obviously, different people. It wasn't until Rav Moshe Feinstein was the first Orthodox rabbi to come out and say it's okay, you could make Bor Priagafen on grape juice. In fact, Rav Moshe passed away, or the funeral was on Tainis Esther. I was there when I was still in New York, and there was a whole discussion, should we have a big Simcha Purim or not, etc. All the yeshivas had I guess they each decided on their own what to do or what not to do. So in one of the Hesped, in one of the eulogies, they were talking about how far-reaching, how great Rav Moshe was. And you know how great he was? Not only that the Jews followed Rav Moshe, but even the Goyim. Like, where do we see the Goyim following Rav Moshe? So I guess there was this judge in Philadelphia. There was this big case, it must have been in the 60s, 70s, whatever, a big case about Siamese twins. I don't remember any of the details. All I remember him saying is, well, I looked into it. There's this great rabbi in New York, Rav Moshe, paskin this way. If it's good enough for Rav Moshe, it's good enough for us. And he paskin, he quoted
C. Everett Koop,
okay,
the chief surgeon of the United States, Surgeon General, and he was a pediatric surgeon, and he worked at CHOP at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and he said, I heard Rav Tendler tell us this, that I'm not operating on this man, on these boys, until the little man from the lower east side rules.
So actually, I heard this from Rav Schechter, but this other story about it I heard from Rav Moshe Tendler, and Rav Moshe Tendler liked saying over that, in fact, there was a big discussion in the Catholic Church, because I think they call it communion. What do they do with wine and the crackers? In fact, that's what some say. That's real avodah. If you find there's different types of avodah zarah. Some say that's crosses an avodah zarah. If you're an educated Christian, you're not bowing, you're not worshiping. But the real avodah zarah, some say, is you think it's the flesh and the blood. So there's a discussion. Could we use grape juice? They wanted to know, alcohol, wine, could we use grape juice for communion? So the way Rav Moshe Tendler says the story over, he says, the Pope quoted this rabbi in New York City, Rav Moshe Feinstein Paskin, grape juice is good for Kiddush, so it's Bor Priagafen, we could use grape juice for communion. So
they used to drink regular Welsh grape juice.
Oh, so that's what my question was. How do you differentiate between
Welsh? Before, in the 20s, 30s, and they used to drink regular grape juice.
Right, but is there a difference?
I'm saying Orthodox Jews.
Right.
But Welsh is grape juice.
You didn't need a half.
What do you need? Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
You saying?
You don't need if it's grape juice. You're making shakol, so that's it. What's the problem?
No, what they were making.
I see. No. Saying it's not even stanyena.
Yeah. No, they used to drink Welsh.
Oh, because Welsh is shahako. It's now.
It's shakol.
Yeah, that's a shahako. That's a question.
It's still a shahako.
What Welsh? Because it's not. Where is it? Like, how do they make the Welsh?
No, it's just regular. It's like being orange juice.
Okay, so yes, I mean, yeah. So therefore,
between Kedem grape juice, which is a hagafen, and Welsh's grape drink.
Yeah, so it probably has to.
Drinks are different.
No, so I'm just saying because. Well, I'll get into that in a minute, but I'm saying that I'll get into Mr. Herzog in a second. That's Kedem, but that's the pashtus is that which. But I spoke to someone that's what because I wanted to know, could you actually have something which is wine but still make a shot? So he thought that they have to go hand in hand. That by definition, if it's not Bor Priagafen, so therefore Welsh would be more considered like fruit juice. We call it grape juice, but it wouldn't be something So you think they used to drink it for not Kiddush?
Not Kiddush. Before they
Yeah.
allowed to make Kiddush, they used to drink regular grape juice. But today we've gone to the opposite extreme. If you have grape juice, you're going to have 95% orange juice. You know, these mixed juices. And they put a little bit of grape base,
Up to 10%.
and suddenly you need a hechsher on the whole thing.
Oh, you mean a hechsher is in terms of drinking? I mean, or not even?
Because you now have grape.
Yeah.
In other words,
Yeah.
you have
Today
it's
also
like wine.
But today a lot of the stuff is even fake. You know, a lot of stuff isn't even real. That's why a lot of the stuff with the grape, which is that isn't from real grapes even. But it's going to get into the different levels. But I'm going to get to that in a second. But that's what Rav Tendler said the story. So Rav Shechter said the story. What's C? What?
C. Everett Coop.
Okay, so he
It's
quote.
a big mouth of beer.
Yeah. So therefore, this is an old.
He's not anymore. He's a lady now.
Yeah. This was in the 80s.
And
He himself was a pediatric surgeon.
Right, so therefore that's one issue. Is it a shahako? So according to Rashi, Rav Henkin, and all that, and that used to be that they felt that if they're passing like Rashi, that it was a shahako, and therefore you can't use it for kiddush. And then into Rav Moshe, Rav Rishonim seems to say it's a boy priya gafen, and that's the way Rav Moshe paskin. So assuming it's a boy priya gafen like the way we paskin, so then the next issue is the Gemara tells us in Baba Basra. What type of wine do you have to use for Kiddush? Wine that could be brought al gabi hamizbeach, wine that could be used for the wine libation. So the Rambam takes this Gemara very seriously, and he says it means literally. Therefore, he says, forget about grape juice. You can't even use yayin mavusha. You can't even use cooked. All these sugar wines you can't use, and the only thing you have to use is yayin she'eno mavusha. You have to use the good stuff, or at least I don't know if it's the good stuff for me, but what people consider, let's say the expensive stuff anyway. That's a fact. What?
Kiddush.
Yeah, Kiddush. He said.
Some above it.
Yes, I guess some Sfardim I assume are makbid, but and in fact I remember when I was in YU, who knows, was it 30 years ago, whatever it's been, 20, 30 years ago. So they went. I remember they had a big affair in New York City. I don't remember who it was for. It was definitely some big, I don't know if it was the president or not, and it was a Jewish affair obviously because they call YU to get waiters. I guess when you're charging $10,000 a head, they want the yayin she'eno mavusha. So therefore, that's the Rambam Shita. Yadav can need yayin she'eno mavusha for Kiddush. And Rov Rishonim Tosas says that's not the pshat in the Gemara, it's a melitza. It just means you can't use spoil wine. But of course you could use yayin mavusha. And sugar. In fact, that's what Mr. Herzog, he had two chidushim in terms of, he's the owner of Kedem, at least he still is, I'm not sure. But he had one, he wanted to try to help there's a discussion of how high, I think at one point Kedem was making yayin she'eno, or they were claiming it was, one of the how high, what's the temperature? So I think he claimed it was 170, 180, when everyone else said it was like 120. So number one, most people didn't like his chiddush about how high it was. But the second chiddush some did like. His other chiddush was, if you want to be makbid for the Rambam, that you don't want to put, let's say, putting anything into the wine makes it not good. So his chiddush was taking the sugar out of wine, because wine has natural sugar, and taking the wine sugar and putting it in, and therefore maybe that maybe if you want to be makbid like the Rambam, you could still consider this, not external sugar. So he had a couple of chidushim he tried to develop when he was doing his kedem. I don't think they have real yayin she'eno mavusha anymore, or because of the obvious other problems with it. But so number one, it's a hilchos brachas issue. Major machlokas then in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever it was, but we assume it's a boy priya gafen. And now the other issue is, according to the Rambam, you need yayin she'eno mavusha, but we assume like the Bali Tosas, others that no, the Gemara is just a melitza. It just means you can't use spoil wine. So far we're okay. We make a boy priya gafen on grape juice, and it's okay. You can use grape juice for Kiddush. However, and in fact, how can anyone say you can't use grape juice for Kiddush? It's a Gemara. What do you mean? In fact, I think Rav Schwab used to always say, like, people when they go to China, Japan, so they go to the supermarket, you find a box of matzah somewhere, but everyone makes Kiddush over matzah. they take bread, and they say they can't find grape juice. He said, what are you talking about? Go to the supermarket, get grapes, squeeze them out, and then you use that and you make kiddush. He says, it's the Gemara. The Gemara talks about, you can't, it's an issa deraisa to squeeze the grapes on Shabbos. That you can't do, but Erev Shabbos, you squeeze, the Gemara says you're stuck, you have nowhere, you squeeze the grapes out. So how can anyone say? The Gemara says, that's what Rav Henkin talks about. He says, there's a big difference today and then. The grape juice today is totally different. He says, because what's the Gemara talking about? You squeezed out juice, in a couple of hours you're using it. But if you wouldn't do anything, if you wouldn't have drank that juice, it would ferment and it would turn into this alcoholic content. But now that we go through this whole change and we put things in it, we can no longer have it. In fact, many say also, you couldn't really have grape juice Pesach time, because the way you had to always harvest it, you always had to get it out in the fall, and it wouldn't last. It wouldn't last until, it's only now that we do different things. So therefore, Rav Henkin claims, that's why it's a so the Gemara's case is a Bori Priya Guffin, Rav Henkin, but our grape juice today, Rav Henkin was telling, that's a Shahako, because it goes through this whole process. Again, and that's the whole question, let's say, Saris has this grape juice they call, I think also Sunpack, because in fact I was in someone's house once, it was a Shabbos morning, and they brought out this grape juice and they wanted me to make Kiddush, or they asked me, I like making my own Kiddush anyway, because so for different reasons we don't have to go into now, but so I said, Sunpack, is this good? Like, and I looked, it didn't say kosher for Kiddush or Dalet Kosher. I said, did someone I said, did someone tell you this juice was good for Kiddush? He said, some rabbi, whatever he called him. I said, okay, I had no idea. You tell me it's good. He says, this rabbi, he was at the house, the rabbi used it. Okay, I'm not going to say which rabbi. And okay, so fine, it was good enough for me. I said, okay. So I made a Bori Priya Guffin on it. And then I saw that rabbi later. I said, did you check, is it true or not? And then he said, well, it was true that he did do it, but he never really thought that it was an issue. And I'm not saying it was. I don't know if it's an issue. I didn't do the research, but the question would be is what the percentage of wine is. Great. I guess it's a matter of how big the percentage difference is. Then the question would be is if it's too much water than wine, maybe it's not even. Maybe it's I don't know if it has a din of water. Depending on the percentage, maybe it has a din of a fruit juice. So what I would have done in retrospect, after thinking about it. If it was Shabbos morning, I would have made a shahako. So mamanashach, I could definitely get away with it for Chama Medina, and the halach is, even if it is Bori Priya Guffin, the halach is if you make a shahako, you yotze. But if it's shahako, you made a Bori Priya Guffin, it could be a bracha l'vatala. So in retrospect, that's what I would have done. I would have made I'm not saying, unless of course someone could tell me they did some research and they know, Sunpack is a Bori Priya Guffin or the Seres. So that's So the issue, Hilchot's Brachas issue isn't an issue. We have the issue of we don't pass it like the Rambam. You need Yayin Sheino Mavushal, and even though grape juice was good Bisman HaGemara, but again that's a discussion. Rav Henke would say it's different today because it goes through once you put the process, it can't ferment anymore, and therefore it's not good. So, but for our purposes, we're fine. We make a Bori Priya Guffin, we use it for Kiddush. So the question is there any reason why we can't use it for Dalet Kosher? So we assume when we do, we're allowed to use grape juice for Kiddush Friday night, and Yayim Abushal, and Bartanura, and B'da'asti, whatever you use, it's all fine. So what about, is there any difference with our Pesach? So they asked Rav Moshe the Shaila, or he has a tshuva, or it's either way, and he writes that Rav Moshe's sheet is that even though all year round on Moda, he was the first one, he started at Bori Priya Guffin and grape juice, but it's preferable to use wine for for an issue that's limited to Leil Pesach. Since the Gemara tells us, and it's the whole night, we're supposed to drink the Dalet Kosas, the 4 cups, Derech Eretz. It's not a din in Kiddush, it's a din in the 4 cups, the night of Pesach, doing things Derech Eretz. Rav Moshe feels that having an alcoholic content, that's something royalty drinks, that signifies Derech Eretz, and Rav Moshe thought it's preferable. Again, B'diavad, Rav Moshe's mode, the grape juice is good, but I'm talking the preferable. So Rav Moshe thought even though all year round he's molded to grape juice, if you want to make Kiddush over it, he thought for Leil Pesach one should use wine. And Rav Soloveitchik felt differently. He asked Rav Soloveitchik, and he felt that no, just the opposite. He thought if someone likes grape juice better than wine, the Rambam writes it should be a shtiya areva. The drink should be a pleasant tasting drink. So what kind of chayras? I'll tell you're forcing me to drink something I don't want. So it seems to be, in the Kudas HaMachlokas, Rav Moshe and the Rav, is, until at least in this issue, we'll see other issues, is what's the definition of chayras? Rav Moshe takes the more objective definition of chayras, that wine is chayras. Let's say we have a similar machlokas by haseba, reclining. It used to be that was in the way of royalty. Today, I don't know anyone who likes reclining, and they don't feel like royalty, but that's halacha, we do it. Of course, the Rabbi came along, and he said, what do you mean, reclining? What do you mean reclining? We don't recline anymore. That's not. So derech chayras, drink like, So at least for Nashim, the Ramah brings down, we can rely on the Rabbi if you don't recline. But so what's the Nakudas HaMachlokas, whether you recline or not? Again, so they hold, don't tell me what freedom is, I'll tell you. It means, like Rav Moshe says, drinking alcohol, that's a free person. Leaning on your left-hand side, that's free. And the Rav would say, no, grape juice, something you enjoy drinking, that's chayras. And the Rav Yo would say, being comfortable, that's the sign of grape juice. And obviously both aspects are true in different areas in terms of, al tikra charas el chayras. There's obviously different times when there's an objective level of chayras, and there are other times where it's subjective. And we know that machlokas is going on in the Middle East today. How you define freedom? That's what defining overtake all these revolts. And I can refer you to Rabbi Heck's article, maybe in the Jewish Tribune last year, or so maybe has it about on the definition of freedom and defining over in the Middle East. But either way, that's the machlokas here by Leil Pesach. The Rav Moshe says go with the wine. Well, the Rav says go. So therefore, according to Rav Moshe, perhaps we have another nafkamina between Leil Pesach and all year round. All year round, Rav Moshe's mode, the grape juice is fine. But Leil Pesach, he says you should have wine. But in contrast to the Rav, who says even grape juice is no different between Leil Pesach because it should be a Shtiya Reva. So this year, we're going to. We're actually going to in our Kiddush. We're actually going to. Saturday night, Yom Shachol b'Shabbos, we're going to be making Havdalah. And usually we make Havdalah, which we will after Shabbos. But we have some different. We're going to make the Bor Mera'esh, and we make the Hamavdil ben Kodesh with Kodesh. So maybe I'll come back to that. Maybe at the end, I just want to do a little more on the Seder. So the next step is. So I want to get to at least. I want to say at least I got to Urachat. So we did Kadesh. So what about Urachat? So most Haggadah is right. Notlin Yadav ve'ein omrim al natila shadayim. So Rav Shecht always like saying over like the kibbutznik or whoever the yishuv. He didn't know, so he used to get every seder. He used to say when he got to Urachat, he used to say Baruch Atah Hashem Elkeinu Melech Haolam, and he stopped. He read the Haggadah. Just don't say al natila shadayim. But obviously that's not what it means. It means is you don't make a bracha. So what's that all about? What do you mean? What do you mean washing without a bracha? Either wash with a bracha, or don't wash at all. What's kind of compromise? What is most, maybe, different Haggadahs might say differently depending whose Haggadah you're using. So this is a sugya in Pesachim, in Arvei Pesachim. So Bizman Beis HaMikdash Kayim, everyone agreed, Adavar Shetzivol B'mashke, something, we're used to washing on bread. But Bizman Beis HaMikdash Kayim, they used to wash as well, regular washing, same thing, on something dipped into the 7 liquids. So there's a machlokas rishonim, the Rambam and the Bali Tosas. What about Bizman Hazeh? For Bizman Hazeh meaning post Beis HaMikdash, where we don't have a Beis HaMikdash now, are we still zahir in this halacha? So the Rambam idea, there's no difference. You're chayev in washing your hands on a davar shedu b'mashke the same way now than you were then. And Tosas disagrees and says, no, it doesn't apply Bizman Hazeh. So that seems to be So the Shulchan Aruch seems to write, you wash your hands without a bracha. It seems to go into Sveika Dedina. In fact, the Vilna Gaon sheet is, he works with the Rambam and says if you make a bracha. Because a lot of times, I'm makbid to washing on wet fruit, and I used to, a lot of times I have to catch myself. I start making, because anytime I wash my hands, I'm thinking, and I always have to catch, but then I realize I can have the gra to be samachan, even if I did make, that's the gra shita. You have to, I'm assuming the gra made the bracha also at the Seder. Even though it said in the Haggadah, don't say, I assume the Vilna Gaon washed with the bracha then as well. I guess I'm wondering, according to the Bali Tos, they didn't have urchatz. Maybe even Hizmo, they did urchatz Leil Pesach, even though they didn't do it, depending, as we'll get to why in a second. It's a Sveikit, so the Shulchan Aruch brings down, all year round, you should wash your hands without a bracha, because the Machlokas Rishonim. So it seems to be, the Leil Seder seems to be working with the same halacha all year round. In fact, the Taz writes, this is a veiled criticism of people. Most people do not wash their hands on wet fruit all year round, and this is a raya they're wrong. The fact that we wash our hands, Leil Pesach, on the Karpas, you should be doing it all year round. You should take chizuk. I remember last year, at the hotel last year, I was doing the Seder, running the big Seder of everyone. There must have been 100 plus people. And so I got to Karpas, and I said the different opinions in terms of, some people have a custom that, and I'll explain behind the reason shortly, that everyone washes their hands, and others that one person. So those who have that custom, I'll have you in mind. You don't have to get. I figured I'd get 5 people to wash. Like 90% of the people got up and started washing. It took about 40 minutes to do urchat. So I told them I better have a lot of water ready this year. But either way, so what's that all about? So washing the hands without a bracha. So we said, so that's what the Taz says. So what about others who don't wash? According to the Bali Tosis, then how do you explain then why, according to those shitas who hold you don't wash your hands all year round for wet fruit, wet vegetables, so why is Leil Pesach different? Manish Tana, Halayla Hazeh Mikol Halaylos. So that we have different shitas in the Achronim. The Pri Megadim suggests it's a din in Yantiv that we have a higher level purity on Yantiv Chayu Adam Latar Atzmo V'Regel in Yonim of Tahara, and this is just one of the things we take on Leil Pesach, over Yantiv. Others say, other Achron think of the Lechem Chamudos, it's to pique the interest of the kids. Don't we? It's called this like Karpas. The Gemara says we do it to get the kids involved. We do something. What? Daddy, why am I washing hands over wet fruit? Where's the chal? Where's the bread? So it's to get the kids to ask questions. Others say it's a din. The Haggadah is a din in Tefillah, in davening, and the Rambam Shita is you have to wash your hands before you daven, etc. And the Netziv has a famous answer. It says we do many things the night of Pesach, Zeichel Mikdash. We want to bring back the good old days when we had the temple, and since back in the good old days we washed our hands before our wet fruit, wet vegetables, so too here. And that's why we do other things we find throughout the night. We'd say, L'shana haba b'Yushalayim. I mean, it's nice to say it, but what's it doing in the middle of the Haggadah? So again, it's a Zeichel and Mikdash. We want to hopefully next year back in Yerushalayim. Some also point out that's the ending of the Kittel. That the Gra writes the reason why we were a Kittel is white, because when they're eating the Karbanos, it signifies the Kohanim eating the Karbanos. We do many things, Leil Pesach, Zeichel and Mikdash, and this is one of them according to the Netziv. Even though all year round one does not have to wash their hands on a wet vegetable, but Leil Pesach, we do it. So those are the two schools of thought based on Rambam and the Bali Tosas. Ma'inach Gemina. Either way, we're going to follow the Haggadah. Urachatz, we're going to wash our hands without a bracha. So what's the difference if it's like what's the difference if it's a real din of Natila Shadayim, like the Taz writes and the Rambam? Or I say it's an independent reason. Zeichel and Mikdash, my nafkamina, I'm going to wash my hands anyway. So perhaps the biggest nafkamina is the one example I just gave you. Who has to wash their hands? If it's a din in the tea, see, when I was growing up, the common practice was just the head of the household. At least what I remember is my father washed his hands. He was the king. He got his water, and we went on. But I know. But then when I went to, I guess when I went to this and that, and I think, no, are you kidding me? That was wrong. Everyone. And then until I actually learned, what the issue was. So I guess they both were right. Either minig is fine, but it depends on this machokes. If it's a din of netilas yadayim, then it doesn't help if I wash my hands. You have to wash your hands. But if it's to get the kids to ask questions, zeichel mikdash, so then it's enough that one person's doing it. You'll pique the kids' interest, etc. Another potential nafkamina would be is, let's say you don't have salt water and you only have fruit juices, not one of the zayin mashkin. So some poskim say, I think Shulchan Aruch Harav brings down, you could use fruit juices, the fruit juices. So if it's a din of netilas yadayim, then I don't have to wash my hands because it's not one of the things that was not one of the. But if it's a din in zeichel mikdash, if it's a din in piquing the kid's question or other ones, and then I should still wash my hands. Or let's say I'm going to use a fork for my cucumber or parsley. So again, if it's a din in netilas yadayim, then maybe if I use a fork, then there's no need for the netilas yadayim. But if it's a din in other ways, then so the different nafkaminas in terms of whether it's a din in the netilas, and again, and obviously the biggest one is if it's a din in the netilas yadayim, then all the halachas of the netilas yadayim by bread apply equally to that. But if it's just a din, you don't have to be so machmir on the washing and that. It's just a matter of getting the kids to see you. I guess get your kids. I guess the point is enough if the kids think you're washing your hands, even if you have, if they're lucky you really didn't have to. But either way, that's orachat and that's the pshat. So either way, so according to the Taz, it's a raya to me all year round. You should be washing your hands without a bracha. And then to all the others, and it's different others, no, it's no raya. Is Leil Pesach is different either because it's a zeichel mikdash to get the kids to ask questions. It's a din in tefillah. It's a din in yantav. So after urachat comes karpas. So there's a whole discussion as well in terms of besides the issue of karpas. So what does it say? Most Haggadahs say you should number one, you should have less than a kazayas of karpas. And it says you should have in mind when you make the boyer pri adama on the karpas, you should have in mind for the mara. So what's that all about? Why do I need make my own pri adama later? If I need a boyer pri adama, make it later. And why can't I have 6 kazesim? What's the problem here? So in fact, there's a machlokas harishon. The Gemara tells us the reason why we have karpas is to get the kids to ask questions. And but the Rambam, again, it's a discussion within the Rambam. Some people say it's a mistake, the manuscripts, but the Shitas HaRambam, as those who quoted, that the Rambam writes, you can have, in fact, you should have, you have to have at least a kazayas. You can have more, but minimally, because the Rambam Shita must be, even though originally Chazal instituted karpas for the tinokas, but once they instituted, they were kovei a real din of achila. It's a din of achilas karpas, and ein kizayah, ein achila pechusam b'kizayah. So that's the Rambam. That's how some quote the Rambam. That the Rambam says minimally you need a kizayas, and we don't assume that way. We assume that it's not a din of achila. It's a din of heker with tinokas, and you don't have to eat a kizayas. In fact, some say you should eat less than a kizayas.